we haven't had a new SP unit since the 4.5 anniversary, which was 6 months ago. Finally, after waiting for so long, they introduced to us SP Bernhardt. They really gave this guy some justice by making him much more flexible. He can fill in as a hybrid physical tank and a attacker, a mixed attacker too, while having more bulk as well. His SP form does change the class type from infantry to dragon, so he'll be able to equip many gears, so let's go figure out what he's all about and how to build him. So with his talent, he got the classic ignore skill cost limit, standard stuff for SP units. Upon entering battle, damage dealt and defense are increased. All enemies within 2 blocks have their attack and defense be lowered. After taking action, they will also lose 1 buff. He still has his original talent with some added benefits like dispelling buffs if they end their turn near him. That defense part is new, so that just adds more of his physical tankiness. One of the new skills that he gets when you unlock his SP form, to pass upon it when activating the skill, you can choose to temporarily replace it with an unequipped skill from either Sword Dance, Shield Bash, or his new one for 2 turns. So when you activate it, you get Rupture as a buff for 3 turns, which cannot be dispelled. You'll also be able to move 3 blocks to attack, and buffs on them do not lose their turn duration. I'm so glad that they kept the Rupture, because that's like one of the main things about Bernhardt. That cooldown is insane to look at, and with this, he's able to function as a mixed attacker really easily. The new skill that was mentioned is a single target that has a 3-turn cooldown, which can attack from 2 blocks. Melee soldiers can attack with you. Before battle, he inflicts heal block on their enemy. I don't know why that's still a thing, even with the Apotheosis too. So yeah, the debuff lasts for 2 turns. After battle, inflicts random submission. So after they take action, they receive fixed damage for 20% of the max HP, and then is removed. But if there's friendly units within 2 blocks, it randomly applies it to one of their teammates when it gets removed, which cannot be dispelled. So yeah, you're able to attack pretty safe with this, and debuff can be pretty annoying to deal with if the enemies like to group up on each other. But mainly when you look at the skill, it's one of his more safer one because you're able to attack from 2 blocks. For his class Master Stone, you want HP, attack, and defense for all of them, so that it adds to more of his physical defensiveness. You can do a skill if you just want Bernhardt to be a full-fledged attacker. Same thing with Arena Stones. You can do an offensive set or a defensive set like mine. For his best soldiers, the Werewolf is going to be good to sustain while putting out some good damage. Just watch out for holy units. The new Cavalry, which I would say is good for just sustaining, I would say they're best for a defensive type of play. The new Infantry is pretty good as well. They can attack well and have pretty good survivability. And the special thing about them is that they can reflect only through melee attacks. So yeah, not bad soldiers. The Giant Lizard Rider, which will be his hardest hitting soldiers. And then you have the Hoplite, a good Lancer soldier for attacking if you want to have an easier time to deal with cavalry enemies. But I would say that you would use the Werewolf or the Giant Lizard Rider the most. For his best weapons, for a single target, you can do Ragnarok. You're able to do some chip damage, plus to break stuff like Last Rites and Shrine Maiden, so that they lose their effects. Molnar to dispel a buff, Bone Crusher to drop enemies armor, or defense in regular content. Then you got Mimir, which is very good for sustain, since it does give heal when an ally dies. It'll also give a damage boost as well, so it's gonna be really nice since Bernhardt doesn't die easy, whereas his teammates probably will. Lastly, you can do Balance Blade, if you think you're gonna rely on his AoE a lot, which is something that you want to use for PvP only. If you guys don't have any of these, then your last best bet would be to use the Drone Guardian for HP, or Shield Guardian for the extra defense. Now some of you guys may argue why not Crystal Stinger. It is one of the best for a single target, since it has defense ignore. But your skill needs to be high. Bernhardt's skill is quite low, so you're gonna have a really hard time trying to get that off. It's also the same reason why you don't see it on Jinsoki. His best armor would be the 3 best ones. Forbidden Battle Armor is the best one to use, but he can also use Time Mat to lower magic damage, which he'll always have since Dragon type soldiers does not exist. If you got regular Bernhardt, it's still fine since you got soldiers like Werewolf. I do not recommend Last Rites, because he will need to be always at full HP to have that much damage resist. So it's better to rely on luck for it than having something that requires a healer to keep that up. If you guys don't have any of them, then anything to increase HP is fine for now, like maybe Reserve Legend, cause he's gonna want to survive magic attacks, which is his main weakness. For the best helmet, Tear for more damage. For some sustained power, you'll want Flower, which will heal you if below half your HP. Predator Crown, which I would say to use in PvP, it gives you quite a chunk of defense and magic defense when he battles opponents who has lesser HP, or Aeneas for more defensive stats. If you guys don't have any of that I mentioned, then something like the King's Crown to give a teammate a damage boost is fine, or even Beanie for more defense. With the best accessory that you can put on, you can do Judge Talisman, Slayer, or Prisoners for more damage, if you really only care about that. So pick whatever you feel like what class type you'll be running into the most. Something bulky that you can use is Overlords to be immune to stat and mobility down, or Swordsmith to be immune to fixed damage and silence. Winged Shin Guard is great too for the extra defense. His best enchant will be Breeze or Full Moon for flexible stats, since he can play in many different playstyles. The type of enchant that you want will be attack HP and defense. If you have a higher enough HP with attack, then that should be fine, since getting all 3 of the extra stats require a lot of investments. I recommend trying to get his HP high as well so that he survives magic attacks, because that's one of his main weaknesses. I wouldn't really care about magic defense since he can also be a physical tank, and we do have a lot of physical attackers running around, so it's better to try to get defense on him because he's able to adapt a lot better now thanks to his SP form, while being able to play him in different ways. My build really focuses more on the bulk while maintaining some damage potential. Alright, so hopefully all of that was helpful for some of you guys. So if you guys are curious what his gameplay is like and what he's capable of doing, then let's go check out his showcase. Alright, so we're going to recap for a bit. His new talent ignores skill cost limit. When entering battle, damage dealt and defense are increased. All enemies within 2 blocks have their attack and defense be lowered, and after taking action, they will lose 1 random buff. So pretty much they're self-explanatory, so I don't necessarily need to go over it exactly. So let's go and check out the skill real quick. One of the new skills that he gets, this thing has a passive where you can temporarily replace it with an unequipped skill, from either Sword Dance, Shield Bash, or his new one for 2 turns. When you activate this, you get Rupture for 3 turns, cannot be dispelled, and you're able to act again by moving 3 blocks. And buffs on him do not lose their turn duration, and the cooldown is 4 turns, which sucks a lot. So you will have to move in because you activate it right away before you get to choose a skill. So we're gonna go ahead and activate it and do the animation, and right away you can see you have 3 different options. You got Sword Dance, Shield Bash, and his new one. Now why it's grayed out is because I already have it equipped. So even by clicking on it, it won't let me do anything to it. But if I choose something like Sword Dance, I'm able to activate it. Now the skill got changed. And then if you check Bernhardt right now, there's Rupture, thanks goodness. And you can see that this unique buff right here. Now this tells you how many turns that you have left before whatever that skill that you chose goes away. Now I really like this skill a lot. That skill is incredibly huge for him because it really makes him so adaptable in many different situations. And it's one of the biggest reasons why it allows him to be that flexible. He can be your tank, he can be your AoE attacker, and even single target attacker. So right now Bernhardt does have 1 turn left on it. And it still says Sword Dance right now. So once that buff is gone, it will change back into his other one. And the description for it changes too. So this is Bernhardt before with the skill. And now after Bernhardt, this is with the Act Again skill. Now the cooldown did not change is because he still had the skill that he chose. So to make it a bit more simpler, the reason why this thing was going down is because they like overlap each other, if that's like the right word to say. Like while the skill that he chose is on cooldown, his Act Again skill is on cooldown at the same time. And so if I change it to something like Shield Bash, which has a 3-turn cooldown, so by activating it, so right after you use it, it should be on a 3-turn cooldown. Since I had 1 turn left on Bernhardt with using that skill, it'll change back into his Act Again skill, and it'll still show the 2-turn cooldown, and that's because they overlap each other. It's really convenient, that's nice. However though, you can get screwed over. What do I mean by that? Well, so right now Bernhardt's passive got disabled, and so if I go ahead and try to use a skill, it'll just act again. Yeah, he'll just act again and he can't choose a skill, all because he got that passive disabled. So yeah, be really mindful of that, because otherwise, you'll have to wait 4 turns to get that back. The other new skill that he gets has a 3-turn cooldown that can attack from 2 blocks with melee swords with you. Before battle, you can inflict heal block on the enemy for 2 turns. Yeah, after battle, random submission is inflicted on the enemy. What that does is that they'll take fixed damage for 20% of their max HP, and then it gets removed. But if they have teammates nearby within 2 blocks, it'll randomly apply it to one of them, which cannot be dispelled. So this thing will have a rinse and repeat effect, and only go away if you do spacing right or if they're immune to it. Now this is probably one of his safest skills to use, and it will be one of his strongest skills that he can use, because Bernhardt doesn't have like a reliable actual single target skill, and thanks to his SP form, now he does. So right now we attacked Elwyn, we got the heal block, which can be dispelled, but we got random submission, which does not have a turn duration. Okay, so I had to reposition because Bernhardt just did too much damage and Elwyn couldn't survive. But hopefully, okay, yes, there we go. So Elwyn should take fixed damage right there, quite a bit right there too. And then it got applied to Hein. And so now that Elwyn has lost it, but he gave it to Hein. And so going on to the next turn, Han will do the same thing, take fixed damage and then apply it to Elwyn. And Elwyn does the same thing, back and forward. So yeah, like I said, it's a rinse and repeat effect until like they position right so that they don't give it to their teammate or if they're immune to it. Okay, so Leanna has a debuff, but she's nowhere near her teammate within 2 blocks. And so what happens is that she'll still take fixed damage, but the debuff will no longer apply to anyone else. Leanna doesn't have it, and Hein does not have it too. And to show you guys proof, I'm gonna use a single target on Aniki. After battle, it'll show invulnerable, and then when I go ahead and check Aniki, it is nowhere to be found on him, since he's immune to all debuffs. And so enemies like the dragon, usually with them, percent fixed damage does not work on them, because if it did, they'll just take way too much damage and it'll make the fight so much more easier. It's gonna be treated the same way as if the enemies were immune to fixed damage. You'll still see the debuff on them. Even though they can't receive fixed damage, it'll still get applied onto them. And so that way, it'll still juggle around. So yeah, you're not really truly escaping from it unless you're immune to it. That is the only way to escape from it, or positioning, which can be risky in some situations. So, overall, they made SP Bernhardt much more better. He's a lot more flexible now and adaptable in any kind of fight, all thanks to one of his new skill that gives you a choice between 3 different ones. You need a physical tank? He can do that right away. You want to rush with them? Simply use the skill to act again and pick Sword Dance, his AoE, and you'll get even more since you'll get Rupture at the same time to deal fixed damage. You can also choose a new one which allows you to attack from 2 blocks while being his strongest single target skill. The unique debuff it gives off is not that bad, but it really only does well in a certain type of playstyle, like tank push maybe, and especially total comp, because playing in that kind of style encourages to have their characters stay together. Even in regular content too, it'll be the same situation. So I wouldn't really think about on the debuff too hard, and just think of using a skill like Air Slash, just to simply deal damage. So most of the time, you'll be running his 3C, his new active skill, and the last one could be just depending on the situation. You want damage? Pick a single target one. You want him to stay constantly as a tank? Then pick Iron Fist. Because remember, you can only pick one skill at a time, and you'll have to wait quite a bit for it to refresh, as they don't last long as well. He also has a variety selection of gears that he can choose, so building him will be quite easy. Now that he's going to be meta again, he's going to be able to help Leon do more damage, since his faction buff enables more damage in general. Even in regular content too, Bernhardt will be able to do a bit more now. In PvP though, his change is a lot more noticeable due to his adaptation in battle. So I would say that, yeah, getting SP Bernhardt is definitely worth the effort to get. There you guys have it. That was SP Bernhardt's showcase. If you guys have Sherry, I would say maybe get hers first since she becomes a lot more self-sufficient in regular content. Her Actigan is very consistent and is a lot more easier to pull off, better mobility and self-healing as well. I would say even Elwyn too if you guys use them, cause it completely changes the way how you play him. Getting SP Bernhardt makes him effectively more adaptable, and that's what I feel like what really makes him great. A bulky, strong mixed attacker with amazing mobility to complement all of that. And that's all I really have to say about him. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about SP Bernhardt or if there was anything that I may have missed. And so yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.